welcome back to the BPMO, Business PMO podcast. This one, we're going to be focusing on creating positive change. Positive change.
Yep.
I guess we can't just say creating change because that could go another way, but creating positive change. Change that people can look forward to. So I know there's a lot of books out there. Who Moved My Cheese is one of the famous books. Yeah. And those tend to focus on the act of change and how people can resist the act of change. But I think the culture has changed a little bit in that it's not so focused on the change, but what it means to me. There's a whole lot more me in today's society than there might have been in the past.
A lot more.
Deal with it, right? So yeah. All right. So this one, we're going to be talking with David Helps. If you haven't seen any of our podcasts anymore, everybody set a clock and come back in 2 minutes. This one, David Helps. David Helps is the South Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Chief of Staff for their Project Management Office. I still love saying that. I can't say that enough. But we're very grateful that you're joining us again.
Thank you.
To talk about change. Join us every time. It's amazing. So jumping right in, because I know we got to keep this to about 20 minutes as always, right? So we talked about building character, we talked about things to avoid, we talked about techniques, all this. So this one is how you are, it's like a test of your leadership. How do you really know where you are? How do you test yourself where you are? And what kind of leader you are, what kind of things you can do. And of course, one of the most adversarial things you could do is change, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so we start off with a story. So John Maxwell always gives a good story. This one is on Lou Holtz. Now, I am not a sports person, so if I mess this up, David's going to correct me. I'm not a sports guy. I like watching sports. I like playing sports, but for some reason...
Yeah, when you said, who's Lou Holtz, I was like, what?
Yeah, you weren't supposed to reveal that on camera? Now everybody's revealed. He doesn't know who Lou Holtz is. So, all right, so the story of Lou Holtz. For those like me who don't know, he's a college football coach. And he's credited with many things, but the thing he's credited with in the book Developing the Leader Within You 2.0 is turning 6 losing teams into 6 winning records. So he, I guess, went from one college to another, and his record, somehow he was able to take each team that was losing, and in 1 year flip them from a losing record to a winning record, which is truly remarkable. So it couldn't have just been like, a lightning strike. And his career highlight was going to Notre Dame, or is it Notre Dame? Notre Dame, Notre Dame.
I honestly say it I say it both ways.
And he led them in 1988 to an undefeated season and a national championship. Now that's all I know about Lou Holtz. But apparently he's had some
here, right
success.
Down the street, at the University of South Carolina.
So and I guess he's had some success in South Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Is it fair to say?
Yeah, he was the one that started the program turnaround and then handed it off to Spurrier.
So leading change is different. What do you think is so special about this Lou Holtz guy, and what is it that he does that seems to apply universally?
I think personally, because I've seen him talk before. And I've been to a couple of things that he's been at, and I think it honestly, I think it's his execution. It's his execution of how he talks to people. It's his execution of how he explains his vision for the future, and through how he does it, he gets buy-in, and he gets people to not find themselves in the position of some of the things we're about to talk about. And he can, in his mannerisms and in how he speaks about it, he gets people to buy in, and they're like, wait a minute, I want to be a part of that. Okay. I want that.
So it's like some sense of authenticity, but also enthusiasm.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Is he one of those speakers that's like very loud and boisterous, or is he like calm?
No,
he's silent warrior.
He's definitely one of those that. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen him get worked up before, but for the most part, he stays where he needs to be for what's going on at that time, whether it's in a game or whether it's just watching film afterwards or something. He knows where he needs to put his pitch and tone and keep it right there for what the situation is at that time.
All right. So this leads into kind of the discussion of what change is. Now, in my experience, which is 25 years, it's not like lifetimes or anything like that. In project management, I usually thought of change that people resist change. They don't like change. And in the beginning of my career, I would say that was ironclad.
Yes.
I see more now, it's almost like people embrace the idea of change as long as it doesn't change them.
Well, just look at project management in general. Everything before traditional predictive waterfall, change was the enemy. Change was not our friend. Change was bad. If you had change, oh my gosh, it changed. It affected everything. And now we're in today's world of project management, and even the things that were traditionally predictive waterfall are trying to find ways to use hybrid approaches to get some agile aspects to be a little bit faster and a little bit better. So everything is, like you said, moving to change and incorporating it.
So when we're leading people through there, one of the points made in the book here is trying to get people to not feel awkward.
Yes.
That whatever change you're asking them to do, to get them on board with it, to get them supportive of it, and that they can see themselves, if they need to change something within themselves, then they will be more supportive of the change once they go through that process internally.
Exactly.
You know, if I'm a painter, I don't care what color the wall is, but if I'm the person in the room, you go from blue to pink to green to white to black to yellow, eventually I'm gonna this is affecting me.
Yeah.
The painter could care less. He doesn't have to change. He can change the paint all day long, right?
Yeah.
But if I have to change my mood every time I come in here and see a different color, then it's a little bit different. So I've got to first change internal to myself that I'm looking forward to the new colors.
Yes.
I want to see the new color. Bring it on.
It's different.
You can change it every week, and I know it's a simplistic example.
Yeah.
But in project management, if we're leading people to accept change, it seems to be a little bit less nowadays about the change itself, and a lot more nowadays about making sure that people don't feel like they're left out in the dark.
Or they're going to lose their job. Or their job is going to change so much that they're not going to be able to do it anymore because maybe they're getting older like me, and
What you talking about?
Old dogs get stuck in our ways, as my wife will tell me on a regular basis. You're stuck in your, come on, get get with the times. But that really is what it is. People get awkward around the change because unless you give them a clear, and sometimes we can't, right? Sometimes we can't give them this because we're still trying to understand the change that we're being asked to accomplish. But a lot of times they're asking themselves, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my job? Am I going to be able to continue? Is my job completely going to change? Am I going to have to be moved to a whole nother division or area? So we've got to try to help, like Holtz, give a clear picture so that they don't feel that awkwardness and they don't feel that stress.
And the second point that he makes in his book here kind of feeds from that. And it says, so in his view, and I agree, that people initially focus on what they're going to lose, what they have to give up.
Yeah.
And if people have a sense that they're going to have to give up everything, you lose them. But to lead them through that is to call out the elephant in the room. Look, there is a change. Everybody's going to have to give up something. But don't view it so negative.
Correct.
One
and two here are, they feed each other, right? They feed each other. And what you have to do is when you give a clear direction and you give a clear vision, you give a clear goal of what the end of that change looks like, people can visualize, and you've got to make it visual. If you just say, okay, this is going to go here and this is going to happen and you're going to start doing this, that's when they start getting awkward because it's like, well, they can't envision that.
Right.
They can't envision the points that you just made. If you can give a clear, concise, and they can then understand what they are losing, but also what they're gaining, or what is just changing a little bit. That is, they're not losing it; it's just changing.
Yeah.
Then they're like, okay, well, wait a minute. Maybe that's not as bad. Maybe that's not going to be as bad as I thought.
We have a big change going on in one of our clients right now. So one of these changes is basically it's an agency split.
Yep.
Now I've been part of companies that merged.
Yep.
And I've been part of companies that had a section of their business bought out.
Yep.
And I'll never forget Enron. Right? I was actually with PricewaterhouseCoopers during this time.
Wow.
And their big competitor Arthur Andersen. They were the accountants for Enron. Ever hear of Arthur Andersen? Go Google it. You probably haven't heard about them recently because of all the drama in the past. Yeah. So the thing of like people, when they see companies merge and they see companies split, whether it's government or not, first thing they think is about themselves.
Correct.
Right? So you got to eliminate that.
Yep.
And I think one of the really good things this agency did, to prepare people for it, is you see things get updated in the agency before you see it get updated in the newspaper.
Correct.
Right? So they see it coming. So there's that transparency.
Yes.
They are upfront with them saying, we don't know everything, but we do know this. You're going to have a job.
Yes.
You're going to make the same amount of money. It's not going away no matter what. And, they guaranteed it in writing, that when you transition from here to here, then you have the same job title, the same job salary, but you're going to just be doing it for somebody different. And then that was like what they lose, right?
Correct.
Correct. But then they painted this picture of, well, what are you going to gain?
Yeah.
And now that these companies are split, they're going to be looking for more opportunities. So we may even need more people to do what we need to do, and we're going to need you to be there to mentor them and coach. Now all of a sudden people are like, well, maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah. Because at first, the first time they heard it, it was like, oh, I'm losing my job.
Oh, it's a huge shock. Yeah, never get your news from the newspaper when it's something big like that, because newspapers are more opinion now than anything else, and that can scare a lot of people. But I like what you said about, it's not just what you're going to lose. Once you tell somebody what they're going to lose, you better have some visual out there for what they're going to gain.
Yep.
And get them to accept that gain as a positive thing, and then you're leading a change from what you're losing to what you're gaining. So now you're losing something less than and gaining something more.
And we deal with that in every project we do, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, every project we do, the group that we're doing the project for, change is coming to them, and they know it, and they're scared. And here we come, ta-da! We're here to make the change happen. Guess who's enemy number one right off the bat?
That's right.
Us.
Project
we're enemy number one.
So, what's a project if not a giant change?
Change, right? Yeah. So that is really everything. We've got to talk about. We got to give them the vision, because if we don't, then that project is going to suffer from aggression the whole time.
Yes. So. And so there's another story that gets shared in here that okay, let's move away from the fact that they lose something and gain something. Mm-hmm. Some people will look at it and say, now I'm going to be doing something that I've never done before.
Yes.
And I'm going to look stupid in the process, right? And the story here is of Wilt Chamberlain, who is, again, sorry, sports fans, I didn't know who Wilt was until I read this John Maxwell book. But let me tell you, for who doesn't know? And I think it's kind of funny. Now, so this goes back to, what was he, 1970s? It was a long time ago. So Wilt Chamberlain was a very, very good center in the sport basketball, right? And I'm sorry, I don't know more about basketball. I should. Go Gamecocks. So his problem, though, was that when he shot from the free throw line, he only got 51% of the shots. Mm-hmm. Because he was shooting, and I'm going to do this for those who see the video, like every other normal human being, where you hold the basketball over your head, you shoot. Yep. He only got it 51% of the time. Yep. Otherwise, he was a great player, but he was really horrible from the line. So then he went from the overhead shot to the what was dubbed the granny shot.
The granny shot.
And so he had the basketball and kind of swung it from between his legs and then lifted it up. And when he did that, he had an 89% success rate.
Yep.
And it was, wow, he even set like a record somehow for like the most number of free throw shots, and it was wildly successful. But for those who don't know, basketball at that time was not acceptable to be like in a granny shot mode, right?
It was not.
I put it that way, right? You know, you shoot from over the head like a man.
Yeah,
you know, you take it. Yeah, very, very aggressive. So he went back from doing the granny shot back to the over the head shot, and it tanked again.
Yep.
And they said, well, if you had so much success, why did you do it? And his answer was, and I quote, he felt silly like a sissy. So he gave up the free throw success because he looked and felt awkward.
Yeah.
He felt like he was doing something new, even though he was going to be successful. So even though there's a positive vision out there, if they feel like they're going to look different or they don't know something, that they're going to end up looking like an idiot. Now, how do you motivate these people who feel like what they're going to be doing is so new that they're going to look ridiculous?
You really have to go in and you have to build out a strong, especially if you're doing a new skill set, you have to go in and you have to build a strong training program and help those people learn as best that they can to be as efficient and effective as they can in the new environment. The problem is, and I know you and I have dealt with this in the past at different places, the problem is the training piece is the last thing people think about. It's the last thing they care about. They want to get the change done. We'll fix it later. That you're not. Your people are going to struggle, just like he did. He was doing the right thing and should have stayed with it. I don't care what he felt like he was doing. He should have stayed with it because his scores were higher using it.
Then you'd be a sissy all the way to the bank.
All the way to the bank. But when we're doing our projects, we need to go in and help them look and understand the better way to do it, and train them how to do it, and then help them move forward.
And wouldn't it have been funny if the way the NBA worked out is everybody started doing the granny
Everybody
shot?
started doing the granny shot. Everybody was like, hey, I was working for him. Let me see.
All right, so the last challenge to creating positive change that's brought up here is people feeling alone. And so he makes the case that says, how many people does it take to create a positive change? There's only one, and that's the leader, to create the positive change. If you don't want people to feel alone in a project, you're a project manager, how do you keep everybody together and keep them all thinking that they're giving up something less, gaining something more? They're not going to be left looking awkward. Everybody's going to get their training or whatever it is they need, the equipment, but also to make sure that people aren't left out straggling.
Correct.
And because one person can affect a lot more than one person with negativity.
Exactly.
But the other way around is a little
You
difficult.
have to be a shepherd. You've got to be a shepherd. You've got to watch and look and pay attention to all the moving parts and look to see if you see somebody starting to get out of sight. And then you've got to make the conscious effort as a leader to go find that person, figure out what's going on and why they're not moving as everybody else, and figure out how can we fix this together, because you're not alone, and we will work on this together to get you back with everybody else, and we will help you get along that way. You've got to shepherd, what I mean by that from a project management term is you've got to always be watching what's going on and manage by walking around.
Yes.
Tracking what is going on, who's being left out, who is moving themselves away from other people, and work on that. Go find them, go get them, have conversations, bring it back.
So a temptation in project manager world is somebody doesn't show up to your meeting, it's easier to just stop caring about them.
Correct.
Than it is to go after them and say, nope, come on back into the fold.
That's the easy road.
Yeah.
That's the easy road. That's not the right road to take. That is the easy road. You got to take the hard road on that one.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, so we'll close out this this segment, this podcast, with a quote from Winston Churchill.
There we go.
Winston Churchill, widely regarded as a great leader. I guess it depends on what side of the war you're on.
Well, yeah.
but widely regarded as a great leader. He says, "To improve is to change. So to be perfect is to have changed often."
Yes.
All right.
There you go.
Well, thank you all very much again for joining us on this podcast about creating positive change. Thank you again, David, for being with us.
Enjoy it.
We'll have you in again.
Yep.
We'll have you in again all the time. Bring a friend next time.
Well, bring a friend. Bring a friend.
The next one we're going to be talking about is how to plan ahead. So when you're changing things, you definitely don't want to be behind the curve. You want to be ahead of it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the plan ahead, and hopefully you enjoyed today's conversation, and we'll see you on the next session. Have a good day.